Welcome back to another episode of Out of Bounds. This week it's episode 16 and we are doing a Q&A. Let's start that intro. Welcome back to another episode of Out of Bounds. I'm your host, Danell Leyva. I really hope this is recording sound. I'm just double checking. That's all I'm doing. I'm double checking. And we are good. Everything is good. We are good. I'm so professional. Let's keep it rolling. Earlier this week, I asked you guys on my Instagram and on my Twitter to send me any questions you may have for me, about me, or just anything in general, and that I was going to answer them on this podcast. And this is the episode. First of all, I want to say thank you so much for all of these questions. I got some really phenomenal questions. I was absolutely mind blown. I have 50 questions. I've been able to pick 50, which is going to be a lot. It's going to be a lot. For those of you who I didn't answer your questions, I'm so sorry I couldn't get to them. Honestly, I'm just trying to make sure that this is as tight as possible. And by the way, this jacket that I'm wearing, this sweatshirt that I'm wearing, thank you, Saz. This is my producer, Sarah. She got it for me for my birthday, and this is honestly one of the coolest sweaters that I own, and I'm so happy. Okay, let's get into these questions. Okay, this first question is from one of my best friends in the entire world, if not my best friend ever. Her name is Alice, and it says, tell us why Liverpool are the best team in the world, parentheses, but actually, what's your favorite player? Genuinely, I think Liverpool are probably one of the best teams in the world to follow, because initially when I first started following soccer, I almost don't even want to admit this, I just picked a team blindly, and I was like, Manchester United. I didn't know anybody who actually followed soccer, and then when I met Alice through the internet, funny enough, she started telling me more and more about Liverpool, and she just helped me realize just how amazing of an actual team Liverpool is, and not just the team, but the fans and the history behind it, and it's just great. And my favorite player that's a really difficult question, and it's also a very loaded question. It's between Messi and Neymar, just because they're both so good. By the way, some of these questions I will be taking my time on. Some of these questions I'm just going to be like, just shooting them out. When can we make a movie together? Honestly, when the whole apocalypse is over and we are allowed to travel again for work and leisure, and it would be, that's one of the first things that I want to be doing. That's actually one of the only things that I want to be doing right now. It's making movies and just TV shows and anything, storytelling. Third question is from my producer, Sarah. What's the craziest rumor you've heard about yourself? I genuinely don't know. I don't have an answer to this question because I don't remember any rumors that I've heard about myself. By the way, thank you again for the sweater, because it's literally saving my life right now. It is freezing in this house right now. It's also really late, and I'm trying to film and be as quiet as I possibly can. This next question is from a really good friend of mine. Her name is Masi. You can see her Instagram handle right here. She's actually a really fun person to follow. She speaks English and Spanish, and she does like really good accents in both of them. And she's just a fun human, honestly. She's super supportive. Whatever. The question is going to college versus not going to college. And I really like this question because that was a very big decision for me at a certain point in my life and in my career, where I had to decide whether or not I wanted to compete for NCAA or if I wanted to stay home. Ultimately, I decided to stay home. There are definitely still moments where I wonder, like what if I would have gotten to college? What would have happened? It really just depends on who you are and what you want to do and how much time you want to spend on doing other things that are supplemental but aren't really exactly focused on the one path that you've chosen. And then on the other hand, college is exactly for that, so that you could just not know what you want to do and not really need to figure it out and just kind of dip your toes in a lot of different pools. I don't know. This next question, again, is from Sarah, but this is such a good question, I had to add it. It says, you're about to get into a fight. What song comes on as your soundtrack? Obviously, the first song that's coming to my head is the Rocky theme. Da-da-da. Probably something Bad Bunny, just because I love Bad Bunny. You know what I mean? How many times have you injured yourself doing gymnastics? Honestly, so many times. So many times. I was honestly very, very fortunate that while I was a gymnast, while I was competing, I never had to get surgery. I needed to, but I never like actually followed through with getting the surgery. But yeah, I got hurt a couple times for sure. This question is one of the questions that I said that I was going to probably take more time on, and it says, what made you want to come out publicly? Follow-up question, if you will. It says, did you tell your teammates or family you were a part of the LGBT community? How did your family take it? How has your life changed? All of these are very related. To answer the first question, what made you want to come out publicly? I just felt that it was the right time for me to do so. I felt that I just had finally come to fully accept who I was, and all of these years of me kind of questioning and rejecting who I really was finally came to this point where I was able to confirm exactly what I always somewhat suspected. And so I decided that it was a good time, especially since it was National Coming Out Day and it was like such a big deal. It was a really big deal for me. I didn't really tell any of my teammates because I actually didn't even know myself, especially when I was competing. I definitely had no idea. This was something that has been happening in my brain within the last year, really, that I've kind of been actually coming to terms and fully accepting everything that I've always, all these thoughts that I've had in my head and everything that the sort of desires that I've had. And it was really just this year that obviously we all had time to ourselves where I was able to piece everything together and fully realize and understand that, oh, hey, that's totally normal and that's totally okay. I told my mom and I told my aunt, and that's really about it as far as my family goes. As you can imagine, as most Hispanic families, it's a little tough trying to come out to them, and I'm not even fully prepared, and I'm not even fully ready to be completely out to them, because it's still a really scary process. It really is, and I'm sure a lot of you know this, but it's still really difficult, and especially somebody like my grandpa who's 80 years old and who is very obviously old school and very traditional, so it's like it'll be tough for me to actually sit with him and be like, hey, I'm bi. My family, the family that I did tell about, my mom and my aunts. My aunt, she's been in a lesbian couple, I think, in some form of lesbian couple since she was 15, so she took it fine. And my mom, she took it fine too. She asks me questions like normal, but I had kind of hinted at it to her a couple times, and I was in a way hinting it at myself. But yeah, she took it great. How has my life changed is another one. It hasn't really changed very much. I'm more accepting of myself. I'm more understanding of myself. I just feel like I don't really need to reject any part of who I am anymore. And so in that way, it has been way better. In the other way, it's been a little worse in the sense that, like I said, it's still really terrifying having to put myself in that imaginative scenario where I have to come out to the rest of my family, which ultimately will be my decision whether or not I want to do that, just like it is everybody else's. But I don't know. I'll figure it out one day, I guess. These are great questions. Okay, this next one. I feel like I had to bring this up because of this week. And I'm filming this before the end of the results, so this brain doesn't know what happened on set. By the time I release this, I actually in real time will know, but this person right now doesn't know the results of the election yet. Hopefully I hope it's good. It says, thoughts on Miami's political agenda. And honestly, it's so frustrating. That's the extent that I will answer this question, because I know that there's a couple more later, but for right now, infuriatingly frustrating. What's the biggest influence in your life? I try and draw motivation and inspiration by so many things and so many people within my life. And honestly, right now, I have to say my mom. I feel like I talk about her a lot, but I do have to say my mom, because she has never stopped teaching me and guiding me. And it's interesting because as one gets older, we start to realize oh shit, they are learning at the same rate that we are. They're not these all-knowing entities that we imagined they were when we were little. They are learning just as slowly and as roughly as we are. So to see her always be able to actually grow and be better and better every day is a really big influence on me, and definitely something I strive to be. Of course she's not perfect. Of course there are things that I see that I would love to avoid, and I am trying to, and I have in a lot of ways. But that's just what life is. It's just evolving from where you came from. And I know that if I ever have kids, hopefully they will be significantly better than I am. Hopefully they will have evolved way further than where I am or will be or whatever, because I just feel like that's kind of the whole point of this thing. Got a little existential there for you. What's the transition been like post-Olympics? Any learned lessons or unexpected joys? First, I will say that you could definitely refer to this episode right here that I did with a good friend of mine, Cammie Craig. She's a legendary water polo player, literally. And also, next week is going to be an entire episode about transitioning from being an athlete to actor. So tune in next week. Will you participate in American Ninja Warrior again? I don't know. It was really fun. I wish there was some way that I can do it in solely an enjoyment capacity where I can just go and play around on the obstacles and stuff like that. Just because there was a lot that went into actually competing at American Ninja Warrior that I was very done with my competitive aspect. I competed for 20 years, and it was a very individual and very lonely process at certain points, and I was very over it. And when I was at American Ninja Warrior, there was a lot of moments where I was feeling very similar, and I was like, I'm kind of done with this. That being said, I had a great time. I met some really great people. So I wish that I could just kind of mess around on the obstacles, Boxers or briefs. Boxer briefs. You know what I mean? Easy one. Can we be friends? I need more queer friends in my life. Honestly, don't we all? We're friends now. Come on. We're part of the family. And you're a person of color from what it seems like on your little bit. I mean, come on. It's a small world. This same person says, what's one thing that brings you joy? Music. Music is definitely one of the biggest things that brings me joy. That and video games. Absolutely. Where's your lucky towel? Can I borrow it? You know what? I'm gonna just refer you back to another episode. This one right here is all about superstitions, and there's a story specifically about my towel, and you should definitely watch it when you're done with this episode. This is a really, really interesting question. Is it difficult finding genuine connections, romantic or not, being an Olympic medalist? I feel like this question isn't only exclusive to being an Olympic medalist. I feel like this is a very general question. It is very difficult finding a genuine connection, romantic or not, regardless of the endeavors that you've gone through throughout your life. It's difficult, because everybody is kind of on a different wavelength, and sometimes you meet somebody who you mesh with, and sometimes you meet a lot of people that you don't. So yeah, it's absolutely difficult. And I feel like the Olympic medalist aspect of it certainly adds to it, because there's a certain part of you that certain people won't ever really relate to and won't ever really understand, like I was talking about with my friend Cammie. But I think regardless, if we can just communicate enough, we can kind of all have a certain understanding of who we are. This one's from my friend RJ. It says, when are you going to let that beard flourish and let it get big? Honestly, it is No Shave November, and I trimmed at the beginning of November on purpose so I can see how long it gets. So maybe at the end of November. Aulas português. Eu falo só pouco de português, mas não falo muito porque não tenho nada com que falar. Então, see, there it goes. It's gone. If I could practice with somebody, my Portuguese would be better. Favorite show you binge watched during quarantine? Honestly, I actually started watching this way late in quarantine, in Schitt's Creek, and it's a phenomenal show. I had a lot of recommendations for it, and it's such a good show. Is it hard to be around men/women with athletic bodies and not just stare at them? You gotta be respectful, but yeah, it's hard because, athletic bodies are like my weakness. You love to see it. This is a really interesting question. This question right here makes you think about certain things. What are you doing with your fame to improve the world? I'm trying to do anything that I can to use my platform to reach as many people as possible so that I can help as many people as possible. People who follow me on Instagram and on Twitter are very aware of the fact that I'm constantly trying to help bring light to certain situations that need to be normalized or that people need to pay attention to, because there's a lot going on in the world, and if I can help in some certain way, then I'm doing my job, and I'm fulfilling my responsibility of utilizing my platform to help other people. What kind of mindset do you have when you're working on a week event? Honestly, you can't look at it as a week event. You have to just look at it as an event that needs the most work. But you can't, as soon as you start using words like, oh, this is my weak event, your brain will start to believe you. You can't say that. You just have to be like, no, this is just, I need to work on this event a little more. This one comes easier, but I just got to work on this one a little bit more. I love this question. Favorite Pokemon, and did you keep watching after the original 150? I think my favorite Pokemon has always been, it's difficult. It's between Blastoise and Mewtwo, just because they look really cool. And I watched a little bit after the original 150, like with like the movie and like with Lugia and stuff like that. But that's really about it. Honestly, when the pandemic is over or under control, where do you want to travel? I really want to make a Euro trip with my friend Marcos, and I want to go to Japan, and I've never been to Korea, so I would love to go to Korea. This is a great question. When you find the world too much and things get crazy, what do you do to bring yourself joy? As I said earlier, music. Music is something that really grounds me and really makes me feel so much better. And playing video games. Playing video games is like an absolute escape for me, obviously, but I love it. I love playing video games. I noticed you were getting into acting. Are there any plays, TV shows you'd love to be in/on? I'm not getting into acting. I am a full-blown actor. I've been a full-blown actor for a little bit. I would love to be in any TV show and movie that I get cast in. And unfortunately, a lot of my favorite TV shows are like ended now. Like I loved New Girl. I really enjoy Schitt's Creek, obviously, and those are done. So I'm sure that there are more that I would love to be a part of. I would also love to be a part of my own show. Like I want to create a TV show. I want it to be out, and I would love for that to be successful and for me to be on that one. What's your favorite book? Why? What valuable lesson did you learn from it, from reading it? I have two favorite books. One of them is Inferno, and the other one is Perks of Being a Wallflower. Perks of Being a Wallflower, by the way, was recommended by my best friend, Alice, which I mentioned earlier. Well, she was the first question. That book, Perks of Being a Wallflower, really taught me the importance of, first of all, noticing that you never know what somebody is going through. That's one thing that you really never know what somebody is going through. So you have to be kind to everybody because you never know. Secondly, how trauma can literally come from anywhere. And it can come from not only places where they are very obvious, but from a place that seems very tender and very loving. You know what I mean? Manipulation can come in any and every shape and form. So be careful. And that's one of the things that Perks of Being a Wallflower taught me. The thing that Inferno taught me was just, honestly, it was one of the first books that made me start focusing more on just the state of the world and overpopulation and things like that. And it's an incredible book. It's like an action movie, but it's in a book, and it's awesome. I loved reading it. I read it in like a week, and I'm not the fastest reader. I have ADHD, and sometimes I just like have to read the same paragraph 4 times, but loved that book also. This question and statement: have you ever had a boyfriend? And then the statement I will actually respond to first. By the way, you're a true brave hero by talking about your sexuality. Thank you. I appreciate the sentiment and what you're trying to say, but I'm honestly not a hero. The true heroes are the people, the first responders of men and women that are out there really trying to help us survive this insane pandemic and insane situation that we're in right now. So thank you to all of the incredibly essential workers and all the first responders. Thank you so much. You are the true heroes. And no, I've never had a boyfriend. Like I said earlier, I've only recently have finally come to acceptance of myself and understanding myself about my sexual orientation. So no, never had a boyfriend. Why do you think the Cuban community is so misinformed about the Democratic Party? Because here's the main thing. First of all, no matter what happens, no matter who's running for the Democratic Party, Cubans will always think that they are communists. They would always think that they are promising a lot and they're saying a lot, but all of it are lies. It's essentially, to an extent, just become a Republican. It's a Cuban Republican cult, and that's really all it is. So the short answer is intentional ignorance. What sorts of activities or practices of self-care have you been doing to stay positive at the moment? This is a phenomenal question. And again, I say music, video games. Most of the time together at the same time. Have you remained close with any of your Olympic teammates? Not really close. We're cordial. Gymnastics is a weird sport that it is a team sport, and at the same time it's not at all. So I still kind of talk to them for like very, very sporadically, and we're still nice. It's nice to talk to them, but that's really the extent of that. Tell us about your first kiss experience. Better yet, tell us about the best kiss you've ever had? My first kiss experience. You know what? The thing about this question is interesting because like you have a first kiss every time you meet a new person and you kiss them for the first time. Like that, those are my favorite moments. You know what I mean? Because which one was my favorite? I honestly can't tell you. And I can't tell you because I don't want to get in trouble. But I also can't tell you because like just that moment, that first kiss with that new person is my favorite and best moment, you know? It's always so interesting. How do you like living in LA? Do you find it to be fun, a grind, or both? I love living in LA. Honestly, I really do. I'm in Miami right now and I'm like itching to get back. Honestly, I loved it. I loved it out there. I love the grind. I love it. Can't wait to get back. Favorite fashion brand you gravitate towards outside of athletic wear? I honestly have no idea. I really don't. Like I'll go to H&M a lot of times. I'll go to Zara a lot of times, you know. I used to go to Hugo Boss a lot, not anymore because I don't have money. I really don't know. I don't really see myself just locked into a specific brand. I just like, if I see something and I like it, I'll buy it, you know? Like I've been wearing some shirts that I got at like Goodwill not too long ago. Target has some phenomenal shirts that I love wearing, a lot of graphic tees that I love wearing, you know? So who is your male celebrity crush / ultimate Hollywood crush? The only person I can think of right now is Chris Evans because of all of the incredible work that he's doing. And also he's super, super hot. Chris Evans. And then ultimate Hollywood crush, I don't know. It is an ever-changing, fluid thing. And everybody, at one point, I'm just like, yes, you, yes, 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 yes. What has been the most poignant lesson you've learned thus far? Honestly, things rarely, if ever, actually go the way that you plan them to. And it's heartbreaking because I'm a very visual person and I'm always envisioning myself doing very specific things. And when it doesn't happen that way, you know, like there are moments where I'm just like, but I understand that that's just kind of how life goes. And sometimes it's actually way better. Sometimes it's nothing to do with how you envisioned it and it turns out to be significantly better. Naruto Sasuke. Both. Any advice for coming out / coming to terms with sexuality? Honestly, just be patient with yourself. Be kind to yourself. If you have the opportunity to talk to a therapist, it will be phenomenal. It will be very helpful. It was one of the main things that helped me. You know, I was able to talk with my therapist and just talk it out and hear myself and listen and be very aware of what was going on inside of me. Be patient. Be kind. Least favorite gymnastics rule when it comes to the code of points. Honestly, I have so many. One of the biggest things for me is how the judge can take however long they want to get the score for a routine, and yet the athlete who is actually risking their lives and risking their bodies on some incredibly difficult routines, they are the ones that are timed to actually like get up onto the event. You know, like sometimes I've seen happen where the judge has taken 10 minutes to figure out a score for somebody and has completely iced the competitor out, and they've had to re-warm themselves up to do literally the hardest routines in the world. How do you handle the stress of social media and the pressure of always having to keep it up? Honestly, very poorly. I genuinely don't like social media at all. And it's not because of the things that a lot of people say. It's not because of like the whole like, oh, social media. No, I have ADHD. I don't like keeping up with it. I'm very bad at it. I also have a lot of social anxiety. And so I always doubt myself. I'm doing this because I have somebody who's like motivating me and like lighting a fire into my ass every single week to like help me keep this up. And I'm incredibly grateful for you, Sarah. It's really difficult. It's really difficult because I really am constantly like doubting myself. And I do have, like I said, I have social anxiety. So it's hard for me to be like, hey guys, I don't like doing that. You know, this is cool because this is kind of completely different. This almost feels like an intimate conversation with you. And when I say you, I point at the camera, but I know that there are a lot of people that are watching this, so with you. What were your expectations for the 2012 Olympics and how did they differ 4 years later? For the 2012 Olympics, I thought I was going to win the all-around. I thought I was going to win P-bars and high bar and floor. I was going to get to final on floor and the team was going to get first. And like, I was 20 years old. They differed in 4 years later. I still had very similar goals and very lofty. And like, I wanted to reach those things. But the way that I was approaching it was vastly different. I was also the alternate in 2016. So that was a completely different animal that I had to tackle once that happened. So very different. What's your hope for 2021? Any percentage better of 2020 will be guilty pleasure song or artist. I don't have a guilty pleasure because I have impeccable taste in music. What would you say to your younger self? Be patient. That's it. Just be patient. What do you love about Florida? Nothing. I don't love anything about Florida. I love that my family lives in Miami. I love the beaches of Miami. I love that some, like very, very, very little of my friends are here in Miami. And that's literally it. So dumb. So dumb. This is a really interesting question. What's your perspective on homophobia in men's gymnastics? Does the queer culture, team dynamics, judging, coaching, etc., make it harder for queer athletes to succeed? I don't think this is exclusive to gymnastics. I don't even think this is exclusive to sport. I think this is a very serious issue that is happening on a daily basis. Now, we are finally making strides. As small as they may be, we are finally making strides. We're finally seeing people in positions that are making a difference, right? But at the same time, it's very difficult. It's very difficult. I personally witnessed a lot of people saying some very homophobic things while I was a gymnast, and I was obviously raised with that same sort of brainwashing. So to an extent, I didn't really even see that much wrong with it. I was just like, So I didn't say anything. And of course I regret it. And there was a certain point where I said something to the person who that maybe a certain comment was said to, but at the same time, I still kind of regret not standing up for more people. But it's a really shitty situation. It really is. And it's something that needs to change, not just in sports, but it needs to change all over the world. I do think that sport can be a great catalyst to create some change, but it has to come from the people that are very active and have a lot of followers and a big voice and a big platform. Without them, can't really do much. What kinds of experiences, positive, negative, weird, stand out from your gymnastics career while being a Cuban American in addition to being a Spanish-speaking American? Very curious how you handled your cultural and linguistic identity while being on the national team. I love this question. As I said, there was a lot of brainwashing when we're younger, right? There's a lot of things that happen that we don't even notice. And there's a lot of gaslighting happening that even the person that is gaslighting doesn't even notice that they're doing it. And there were certain moments that when I would go to any international competition and I would find somebody who spoke Spanish, I would get really excited and I would be talking to them in Spanish. Now, there were certain moments where I would get these comments of like, of course he's talking Spanish to that person. Of course you found the person that spoke Spanish. And at the moment I was just like, haha, yeah. But it felt really shitty, It's just because I've always felt that language has always been an incredible point of being able to connect with somebody that you don't know. And being able to communicate with a person in their own language can make them feel so good. If you see somebody that's like struggling in a room filled with people and it's only because they can't speak the language, and you walk up to them and you speak their language, you see that light in their eyes, and it's beautiful. And that was one of my favorite moments, and that's why I did it. Honestly, I love being able to connect with people and communicate with new people just because they had some sort of similarity to me. Like, oh, we speak the same language. Where are you from? That was one of the things that I missed the most about competing. Just being able to meet people and see like friends from other countries like that. Do you experience performance anxiety? If so, how do you combat it? I do. I actually literally just spoke about this earlier. Not just social anxiety, some performance anxiety as well. And the way I combat it, when I was a gymnast, I was able to find some really helpful breathing techniques. I was able to find the anxiety or find wherever the feeling was stemming from. And I was able to breathe into there and either release it or bring it to just whatever level it is that I needed. As an actor, I've been able to use that as well for whatever sort of scene that I need. If I need to be angry or sad or happy, I use the same sort of breathing technique. Definitely look into that, and I'm sure it'll be helpful for you. This is such a wonderful comment, and I'm really grateful for you writing this. It says, you've accomplished so much as an athlete, so young. What would you like your legacy to be for the next 20 years? First of all, thank you so much. I would like my legacy, obviously, to have a lot to do with the entertainment and acting. I want to be known as an incredible actor, as an incredible storyteller, director, and writer and producer. But I also want to be known for my activism. One of the things that I saw that really motivated me was an interview with Mark Ruffalo, where sometimes when they have the interview, they'll have the name and then just under it they'll have like what it is that they do, their title or whatever it is. And most of the people, especially people like Mark Ruffalo, you'll see their name and under says actor. But for him it said actor, activist. And I saw that and I was like, that's what I want. I want my name to have actor, activist behind it. For me, so motivating. So that's what I want my legacy to be for sure, for the next 20, 30, 1,000 years. What inspired you to come out, and why did you decide it was a good time to do so? I I did mention this earlier, but I just felt that it was the point where I finally came to accept myself, at least to a certain extent, where I was able to share it publicly with people to hopefully help people. And so far, I've gotten some really great comments and messages about it. Thank you so much. And the last question, what's the best advice you've ever received? One of the best things, probably the best thing that I've ever been told, was probably from my mom, is just be proud of who you are. Not of your accomplishments, not of what you've done, not of what you can do. Just be proud of who you are. Thank you again so much for all these questions. They were phenomenal. Again, I'm so sorry for those of you who I didn't answer your questions. That was 50 questions, and I tried to pick the absolute best ones. Come back next week. I will be talking about my transition from being an athlete to an actor. Honestly, I'm so happy to be able to do this podcast, and I'm so happy that people are so engaging with me. Thank you so much. I've gained so many followers and so many subscribers and everything. Please continue to like, comment, and subscribe. Turn on that notification bell, and I'll see you next week. Peace out.